Cornell head coach Rob Koll just getting out of a Division I breakout session and talking where the topic was the future and health of the national duels, and there's been some discussion about teams attending and not attending. And first of all, what's your position on the strength of the national duels, its importance in wrestling, and why it really needs to be supported by all programs?
Well, as I said in the meeting, it's not just about national duels, it's a national coaches convention. We've got quite a few coaches here, but we have quite a few of the top coaches that don't think it's necessary to be here and represent their school at the single most important coaches meeting of the year. I mean, if we can't get our own coaches, our top coaches that come here, how can we expect our Division II, Division III, and lower level Division I coaches? So shame on them for not finding a way to get here. And the excuse is always, well, we've got wrestlers doing this, I've got camps, so do I, so does every other coach here. And I would bet that those coaches at lower level schools have significantly less staff to help them. So they find a way. It's important enough to be here for them. If our top guys aren't here, we got some serious issues, as we do. The National Duels is an event that's a culminating event as far as the dual meets for the national championship or for our wrestling program. How you can back out of that, to me, it's unacceptable. We haven't won the darn thing. We've been there many, many years where we had no shot in winning it, and we'll continue to go there come hell or high water. And we simply can't have our top schools deciding that they don't think it's that important. And if they don't think it's important, then fine. That we shouldn't be wrestling those schools, and that's how we get them there. So I do think it's got to be our absolute the peak of the year. That along with the national championship, individual championships, and we got to make sure we find a way to get those schools here, whether they like it or not.
Well, as you say, as far as the importance in competing, if Duke basketball has a down year, they're not going to not participate in the ACC tournament. They're not going to participate in maybe the Big Ten, ACC features on ESPN. So what's it mean for all programs to kind of be on board with not just the attendance at the convention, but even if it's a down year or if it's right before your conference season, which seems to be the most common excuses is given, can you debunk that theory at all, or with any of your own?
The teams that have done well at the national championship later on in the year. So you can't say just because you have a weaker team, you're going to perform poor at the national championship. It's like a small, kids take their ball and go home if they can't win the game. And it's not fair to the teams that now can win the game, and hopefully we're going to be one of those schools. But it's I think
but
a lot of.
If you win it and some power programs aren't there, does it lessen the importance of winning it?
I think it does, and I think that you have some individuals who are letting their personal egos get in the way of what's best for the sport. And I have no problem calling people out on that, and if people want to, call me out on one of the things they don't like on me, that's fine. I'm going to do what's best obviously for my team, but I'm not going to just give up on wrestling and say, well, I'm going to do the best for my team. The hell with everybody else. I think we can't do that in a sport that only has 82 Division I programs left. We can't just think about ourselves, because if we're the only ones left, it won't be a whole lot of fun. And we have 10 teams left, and who are you going to wrestle? So you need to think about other people in this sport. We don't have 400 schools anymore that have wrestling. You have to take a real holistic approach to the sport, and the national duels is really important to our sport. How many other events? You have 17,000 tickets sold, only the national championship. So we've got to find a way to get those teams that aren't here at the convention, and it was very frustrating. The teams that we're having the issues with are also not here. They don't think it's important to be at this convention, and they don't feel it's that important to be. Some of them don't necessarily. Some of them, one or two, don't feel it's that important to go to the national duels, because they think they can win the nationals. Without them, or maybe they don't think that it's it's that important that they're there. Well, if you're in Iowa, you got to be there. You've been great for many, many years. You're going to be great many years from now. If you don't win it this year, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Well, what about the overall health of wrestling and initiatives that are coming out of this convention, not necessarily pertaining to the national duels, but future benefit and growth of the sport itself that are coming out of this particular convention? Not just the Leadership Academy, but there's breakout sessions for each division. We're part of the Division Ones. twos, threes, and AIs are going on right now as well.
Yeah, it's important that you're here and that so many media, the wrestling media, are here because they get to talk about all the sports that have been added. All we hear about is the bad news. You don't realize how many NAI schools have been added in recent years, and Division II schools, and the Division I, the many Division I schools that have been saved. All we hear is the bad news. We need to do a better job of quite honestly, we need to have some positive propaganda getting out there so that administrators hear that wrestling is not a dying sport, that it's actually a growing sport in many regions. At the high school level, it's booming. I wouldn't say booming, but it's growing. And certainly at the NAI level, it is booming, and it's a great sport to add if you want enrollment. The recent program, I'm trying to remember the name, not Southern, Shorter College. I was talking to the coach. They added 60 kids in a year, 60 kids, and he had to stop recruiting because there were so many kids that wanted to be a part of the sport. And he anticipates 2 or 3 more schools adding. Yeah, they're not Division I, but they will eventually, as the school continues to grow, probably go to Division II, probably go to Division I. And we can't think of 1 year down the road. We got to think 20, 30 years down the road and where we want to be. And quite honestly, I think that's the future of getting the sports embedded in maybe lower level sport programs. And as those schools continue to grow and go into Division I or II and III, and then ultimately, hopefully, I, we're going to grow the sport.
Could you imagine a shorter Cornell rivalry?
I would love to have a shorter Cornell rivalry. It's down south. It'd be a nice warm dual meet.
Yeah, like in a squad here in Delray Beach.
Yeah, you know, obviously Florida would be a great place to add it. Texas is a great place to add it. But you're not going to add it at a place that's a big-time football program. So we need to look at some of those less obvious places. And, hey, wrestling's wrestling. I don't care at what level or division. Those are going to be the fans of the future, and they're going to be going to the Division I championships, and they're going to keep, producing little wrestlers. And that's the safety. That's the lifeblood of our sport. And we need to embrace it and be thankful that of those coaches and work with those coaches to grow the sport. And getting back to the national duels, you know, that's the match. That's the event that's on national television. It's the most viewed event other than the national championships. And if we don't embrace that event, we're really shooting ourselves in the foot. And we need to put every bit of pressure we can on every team to make sure that they compete.